Have you ever used an AI, maybe a chatbot or something, generating images and just felt, well, that it's incredibly powerful, sure, but something fundamental is missing?
Oh, definitely. Like it doesn't quite grasp the real context.
Exactly. Or it can't genuinely adapt its thinking or understand things with that kind of human-like depth.
It's a common feeling. I mean, current AI is brilliant at processing huge amounts of data, finding
Yeah.
patterns,
Right.
but that true interpretation, often it just feels absent. They're
Yeah.
amazing tools, but sometimes they just don't, well, get it.
Yeah, precisely. And that gap, that missing piece you're talking about, is exactly what we want to unpack in this deep dive.
Ah, so we're getting into it.
We are. We're looking at Sophimatics, which is this really fascinating new approach to AI design. It's detailed in the source material, Sophimatics, a cognitive model for adaptive AI by Gerardo Ivane and Giovanni Ovani.
Okay, Sophimatics. Sounds intriguing. So our mission today is what, exactly? To figure out how this aims to give AI that deeper reasoning.
That's the core of it. How Sophimatics tries to build AI that reasons with more depth, more awareness, moving beyond just, static information processing.
Whereas a system that can actually interpret things dynamically. Yeah. And learn as it goes.
Exactly. We'll be exploring the philosophical ideas behind it, but also the computational stuff that makes it tick. It's about potentially changing how we even think about AI.
Sounds good. This should give listeners some real aha moments, maybe. Yeah. A glimpse into where AI might be heading.
That's the plan. Understanding Sophimatics could really offer insights into a future where AI interacts in ways we've barely imagined. Think of it as getting ahead of the curve on some genuinely boundary-pushing ideas.
All right, let's jump in.
Okay, so let's start with the fundamental problem Sophimatics is trying to solve. Traditional AI, it's great with static info, following rules.
Yeah, very structured.
But where does it stumble? When the data is new or contradictory or just ambiguous.
Right, that's the weak spot. Things that don't fit the predefined patterns.
And researchers like Landgrebe and Smith have pointed this out, haven't they? Arguing that current AI models aren't truly interpretive in that sense. They lack that dynamic quality.
That's a key reference, yeah. And Sophimatics tackles this problem quite directly. It does something really interesting by integrating philosophical concepts.
Like what kind of concepts?
Things like dynamic ontology, the idea that categories themselves aren't fixed, they can change and adapt. And also intentionality, giving the AI a kind of goal-directedness, a purpose.
So not just processing data, but having a reason why it's processing it.
Precisely. And these aren't just abstract thoughts. They're built into the computational architecture.
Yeah.
The whole design is geared towards adaptability.
Okay, so how does that translate? What does the AI do differently?
Well, it allows the model to sort of autonomously transform its own reasoning. It can justify its outputs based on meaning, on purpose, on what seems like the appropriate action in context.
Meaning it's not just spitting out an answer based on correlations.
Exactly. It makes the model much more flexible. It can interpret information more freely instead of being locked into rigid preset rules. It's a huge shift.
It really sounds like it. More than just an upgrade, it's a rethink. But how does it manage this superior interpretation, as you called it, without falling into the old traps?
You mean the brittleness of purely symbolic AI or the black box problem of purely neural nets?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like you'd need the strengths of both.
And you basically hit on their core strategy. It's a hybrid symbolic connectionist approach.
Hybrid. Okay, break that down a bit.
Think of it like this. You take the logical, rule-based reasoning power of traditional AI, that's the symbolic part, clear rules, clear steps,
Okay.
and you merge it with the pattern recognition, the learning ability, the flexibility of neural networks, the connectionist part, inspired by how brains work.
Combining logic and learning.
Precisely. And the source highlights studies showing this really works. Early research on hybrid models, for instance, showed they were way better at interpreting complex language, even novel phrases, than systems using just one approach.
So it handles unexpected things better.
Significantly better. And other work, like on cognitive architecture such as ACTR, which model human thinking, also supports putting these ontological frameworks, these knowledge structures, inside the AI.
So it's giving the AI a framework for understanding, not just data points.
Exactly. It's the combination. The distributed learning in the neural parts, boosted by the explicit symbolic structures, that allows for interpreting context in a way single-layer AI just can't.
Why not? What's the limitation there?
Because purely correlation-based systems struggle when things are ambiguous. like one word having multiple meanings depending on the sentence. They just see the statistical link.
I see.
Sophimatics, with its hybrid design, can process based on statistics and interpreted patterns, patterns that can shift or have multiple meanings. That's a huge difference from current generative AI, which is mostly about those statistical associations.
It's like the difference between knowing dictionary definitions and actually understanding poetry, like you said.
That's a good analogy, yeah. It's about getting towards that deeper understanding.
Okay, that clarifies the hybrid approach. Now, one thing that really jumped out at me was how Sophimatics deals with time. It sounds, well, unusual, not just linear.
It is unusual and really profound. Most AI treats time as just step A, then step B, then step C, linearly.
Right.
But Sophimatics draws on ideas, like from Maddle and others, suggesting consciousness, maybe even AI consciousness, happens in these overlapping discrete cycles. It's modeled on cognitive architectures that simulate how we process things over time.
Overlapping cycles. How does that work in the AI?
It means the system's internal structure isn't static. It dynamically changes with respect to time. New information doesn't just get added to the end of the line.
So what happens to it?
It can actually restructure older information. It triggers a dynamic reasoning process, much like how we humans constantly reinterpret past events or contexts based on new knowledge.
Whoa. So the AI can effectively change its memory or understanding of the past based on the present.
In a sense, yes. It's constantly reevaluating. This is completely different from most systems that treat data points in isolation. They don't really embed prior information into current reasoning in this dynamic way.
That sounds much more like actual learning and adaptation.
It is, and research backs this up. The idea that time has to be integral to cognitive activities, that knowledge alignment needs to be time conscious. It's building an AI that understands how its past shapes its present understanding.
Like how learning more history changes how you see earlier events.
Exactly, that kind of dynamic reinterpretation.
That's a huge leap. Okay, so this adaptability, it must also link to how the AI categorizes information, right? You mentioned dynamic ontology earlier. How does it manage categories flexibly, not just rigid boxes?
Right, that's crucial. It uses what they call dynamic ontological networks. Forget fixed categories. Think of fluid categories.
Fluid.
Yeah, the definitions, the relationships between concepts like similar to this or belongs to that group aren't set in stone. They have weights, and these weights can change based on incoming data, based on the context.
So the AI's own conceptual map evolves.
Precisely. It reorganizes its own understanding as it learns. The categories themselves are learning, adapting.
Is there evidence this actually works better? Does this fluidity improve performance?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a compelling study mentioned, McMenemy's work from 2025, showing a really dramatic difference. Accuracy jumped significantly, like over 73%, when using dynamic ontology in these advanced architectures.
Compared to what?
Compared to maybe 35% for systems using static fixed ontologies. That's a massive improvement.
Wow, okay. That's convincing.
And they ground these dynamic networks using resources like WordNet or FrameNet, essentially huge databases mapping word meanings in conceptual frames.
Giving it a solid foundation for understanding language and concepts.
Right. It allows the system to store information multidimensionally and update its knowledge non-linearly. This is vital for handling the ambiguity and complexity of the real world.
It sounds like it builds a much richer, more nuanced internal world model.
That's a good way to put it.
So, if Sophimatics can understand context, adapt its thinking, reinterpret its past, and categorize flexibly, how does it interact? You mentioned a dialogic nature. What does that mean practically?
Dialogic nature really points to true two-way communication. It's not just outputting answers, it's engaging in interaction.
How is that enabled?
It relies on coordinating things across different timescales, processing fast for quick reactions, but also slower for deeper reflection. This aligns with breakthroughs we're seeing in human-robot interaction studies.
Okay, so it can think fast and slow, like humans.
Kind of, yeah. And this allows for genuine conversation. The AI can learn from the interaction. It can negotiate meaning if something's unclear.
Ask for clarification.
Yes, exactly. It can request clarification, and crucially, it can change its internal logic or understanding based on that feedback or new input.
So it's not just a passive recipient of information, it's an active participant in understanding. That sounds almost collaborative.
It points in that direction, yes.
Yeah.
And this ties directly into ethical considerations, too.
Ah, right. You mentioned ethical awareness. How does that fit in? Current LLMs aren't exactly known for ethical reflection.
No, they generally lack the mechanisms for it. But Sophimatics, because it can interpret and adapt its behavior, can incorporate ethical modules,
Mm.
meaning it can be designed to relate its actions to its interpretations in a way that's sensitive to ethical guidelines or cultural factors. It's not just about being smart, it's about being appropriately responsive.
So it could potentially navigate complex, ethically tricky situations more responsibly.
That's the potential benefit, yes.
Yes.
A level of awareness and considered action that current systems generally don't have.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together then. This deep dive into Sophimatics. It really paints a picture of a potentially very different kind of AI.
It really does.
We've talked about its philosophical roots, that hybrid architecture blending logic and learning,
Its dynamic view of time, constantly reinterpreting,
those flexible ontological networks, categories that learn and evolve.
and finally, that dialogic nature, the potential for genuine interaction and even ethical awareness.
So the big takeaway for you listening is that Sophimatics isn't just about making AI faster or handle more data.
No, it's aiming for something much deeper. An AI that doesn't just process, but genuinely interprets and adapts. It learns and evolves with context, getting much closer to how our own minds seem to work.
It's a move towards AI that might actually understand in a way we recognize.
Which leads to a really interesting final thought.
Go on.
Well, if AI can truly understand context, adapt its thinking flexibly, and engage in these genuine two-way conversations, what kind of new horizons does that really open up?
For collaboration between us and machines.
Yeah. And what might that really mean for our future? Living and working alongside AI that thinks and learns in this more dynamic, perhaps more understandable way, something to really mull over.